I guess this is, I believe this is the strongest record performance of Micron. And then looking at the way the share trade, I think going to this earning, I did think that the biggest risk is investor high expectation. And then fiscal third quarter guidance is very strong. It's way surpassing analyst expectation and then my own expectation as well. And then gross margin is the strongest in the history of Micron. And then we are still in the early innings of HBM as like precious semiconductors.
High bandwidth
so we
memory.
do have precious metals, and then now we have precious semiconductors.
So Hendy, then why? I mean, the stock reaction is only up 0.8%, despite the fact that, like you said, this is such a record. I think many people would say this was an incredible beat. I want to go to the conversation that we were just having with our colleague Romain a few minutes ago, which is about how much pricing power and how much sort of runway does Micron have to continue to raise prices and to continue to have these margins? Like, how long does that last?
Yeah, so in terms of pricing power, I think we can start based on the fact that there are only like 3 DRAM manufacturers, SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron.
Okay.
So like structurally, Micron is in good positions. And then we believe that pricing is now based on quarterly negotiation. So companies like Micron, they will try to capitalize on the pricing trend. The pricing trend is still going up, at least until the June quarter. And then companies like Micron will try to balance between taking the pricing advantage and managing long-term customer relationship, while also trying to manage customer diversification as well.
Yeah, right. Because we do know that in terms of who are their big customers, it's definitely skewed, is it, towards NVIDIA specifically.
17%.
It's kind of a lot. Hendy, one thing I want to ask you as the headlines continue to cross, Micron says NAND demand to stay well above our available supply. AI, other server demand constrained by memory supply, and says AI server demand continues to be strong. So this is kind of a mixed blessing. Demand is there, but they're having trouble meeting that demand. Is that the right read on this?
That's the right read. And then I think what investors should keep in mind is that this calendar year 2026, all the memory makers will rely on migration of their process technology. So in other words, there won't be any new capacity expansion. And then capacity expansion, we are expecting that to come in 2027. So I think for the 2026, when companies said that they are sold out on capacity, that will be indeed true, and then that will come with favorable pricing as well.
The company also flicking at this idea that they're going to build out to match expectations and match demand. You did say that we're in the early innings of this, and I'm going to get right here. It says, we are investing in our global manufacturing footprint to support their growing demand, referring to customers. That's the words of Sanjay Mehrotra, the president, chairman, and CEO of Micron. How long does it take to build that out?
So I think in general, the rule of thumb in the industry is if you have the shell or the fab buildings and structure, you can expect new capacity within like 6 to 12 months. And then after that, then you will have to work on the yield optimization.
Okay.
So that is the sort of time frame that we are looking.
So 6 months until, if the shell is there, they can be up and running, and they can actually.
If you have the shell, it can be done as short as like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is another way of asking. Look, you said we're in early innings, but we always talk to Ian King, who covers chips or semiconductors for Bloomberg News, and he reminds us this is all cyclical, but we're just trying to figure out where we are in the cycle. So where do you think we are in the cycle?
So I still think that we are still in the early innings. Many major customers, their priority is to secure supply, and then pricing is secondary. And then if somehow there's a disruption within one customers, companies have said that they can find other major takers easily. And then on the other hand, I do think that it is the best of interest of customers to secure long-term supply agreement. Let's say when you build a large AI data centers, or when you want to spend on like GPUs, you want to make sure that you will have supplies of memory chips for you.
Hendy, it's been an interesting week, right? And I feel like we've talked about a lot of things when it comes to AI, and chips and semiconductors. Because NVIDIA, of course, its GTC meeting this week. Got to read certainly on the AI spend and build and what's going on. Here we have Micron, and of course, Micron, as Tim reminded us, 70% of their business is from NVIDIA. Is there a read through for you when it comes to that AI spend and build out?
So the AI spending build out, I think it will benefit all the major players. And then I would also emphasize that all the capital equipment that have major exposure to DRAM will see like strong year in 2027, driven by like new capacity and then capital spending on the fab side.
Yeah, so I'm just curious. Would you buy more shares of Micron on this earnings report, or are you waiting for the call? I'm just curious. What do you think?
Micron is definitely a strong buy here. We can see Micron earning about like $40 on like in this current fiscal year, and then growing to at least like $50. So if someone wants to apply like 10 to 15 times of price to earnings ratio, there is still like meaningful upside based on that valuation approach.
All right, interesting thing. 15 seconds. What are you listening for on the call? What do you need to hear really quickly?
I think like pricing negotiation, and then what the latest thought on the capacity expansion, like how soon new capacity can come to like Micron fabs.